I just happened to be playing Zelda: A Link to the Past recently, and I came across the room where the tiles raise, spin, and attack you, and I got the idea that I bet we could create this in Godot. So I did just that, and I found out that it's actually really easy to do. So today, let me show you how you can accomplish the same mechanic in less than 20 minutes. I went ahead and created a solution that didn't require any assets to be downloaded from any store or asset center. From here, we're just using color Rex, and when you hit the left mouse button, see as it raises, it flies off and attacks. There's no special code here. This is really just taking advantage of sprite objects and transforming some properties and some flags. From here, it's able to take this solution and expand upon it into a, say, a tileset dungeon, like this one, where we can just have a character run around, have these tiles raise, launch off, launch out, and hit you. And with that, go ahead and get started. Okay, to get started, go ahead and click the new project, and go ahead and set a name for your project. Buying tiles for YouTube sounds good. 3.0 is fine. We're not doing anything that stressful. Click Create and Edit. From here, you'll be presented with a default blank screen. You can be on the 2D. We're going to go with just a 2D scene, and we can just call this room. If you notice, there's like a little purple outline here. That's your camera scene. And so why don't we go ahead and Control A and create a color rect. Make this expand over the purple line here, and then let's change this color to be just a darker gray here. Save, Control S, room.tscn is fine. F6, and see that you get the whole gray screen. Okay, close out of that. We're not done yet. Now that this room is set up, let's go to the project settings. We want to set up our mouse input. Click on Input Map, Actions. Let's just call it Primary. So you can make this the left mouse button, which is what we're going to do. Mouse button, left mouse. You can make it spacebar, but if you wanted to make this some way to trigger the event, but the mouse button is what we want to do because we want to get the mouse position. Close that. Save. And then let's go ahead and go to Scene, New Scene. We're going to call it Other Node. And let's make it a kinematic body 2D. Then we're going to create a color rect. This one's really going to be for the shadow, so go ahead and make it black. And we're going to change the size. Open up the rect. Positions 10, 10. Size, we're going to make it, save it as flying tile.tscn, just to have that ready. And you can play with this later, but that's just roughly the shadow. Then we're going to go ahead and Control A on the kinematic body, and we're going to create a sprite. Hit create. Normally this is where you could bring in your tiles and replace this with either a sprite or an animated sprite. In this case, we're just going to create a child node on the sprite and make it a color rect. So from here, we can change the color from white to something, say, like this teal color, and then it's our tile. Notice that it is, the shadow is right underneath it. It's color rect. We can look at the size. See that it's 40, which means we could probably make this 20 instead, and notice how much it takes up. So if we hide this, it looks pretty good. Of course, you can play with it. You can do what you like. The last thing we should add to this kinematic body is a visibility notifier. As the description says, detect approximately when the node is visible on the screen. So we want to know when the node is no longer on the screen. So we can take this guy, press W to move it, and put him just in that center here. And there we go. Save. back to the room, and then take this flying tile TSCN and just throw it up on the screen and just drag where you want it. And save. We should probably get it out of the color rect is not a child. Make sure that it's on the bottom. Also, we should rename this to flying tile. After renaming, go back to the room, take the flying tile, drop it here, wherever you want. Just note the position of where it is, because that's where we're going to want it to come back in. Just throw it on the screen, make sure it looks good where you want it. You should take note of the position, and these numbers aren't really helpful, so either round them down and save them, or you can just set it to say 500 and 300, and that's roughly the center, as you can see here. And those will be our coordinates for where we want them to respawn. Save. Now it's time to move on to raising the tile. Now we're going to raise the tile. So we're going to go to the flying tile scene, click on the create script. Flying tile.gd is fine. See, we've got all this stuff in here. We can get rid of all these comments. We don't really need them right now. We want to get a reference to our sprite, which is the tile in which we'll actually raise, and not the whole scene, just the sprite, which represents that tile that'll be colliding. So we can go on ready var, go with flying tile sprite, colon equals, and you should make it a better name than sprite, but it works for this. From there, we want to get the raised position, and we're going to set it to null because we want to make sure that it's a valid raised position ahead of time. We want to know when we have launched, or in this case, when we have pushed the button, them raising the tile, firing off. And then we want to know if the tile has indeed raised. We can go to this ready function and say the raised position equals the flying sprite, get the position dot y, and then subtract it so it looks like it goes above it for however high you want it to go. In this case, we could do 35, but you can play with it to decide how high you want it to be. From here, we're going to go into the physics process, and we need to know when the trigger has happened. So it will go into if input dot get action strength primary, aka when the left mouse button has been pressed, is greater than 0, meaning that it's been pressed. Then we want to make sure that we check that the tile itself hasn't already been launched towards the mouse. From here, we just say launched equals true. Next, we can say if launched, and then we're going to say if it hasn't been raised, we're going to say the flying tile sprite dot position dot y minus equals, say, 25 times delta, which this will then allow it to raise 25 pixels multiplied by delta time to give that like movement of it raising at that speed. You can increase the 25 number to make it go faster or lower it to go slower in that raising animation. And then we just want to check if the flying position dot y is less than or equal to the raised position. As we're subtracting, it makes sense that it's less. Make sure at the colon, and then we'll say raised equals true. Go back to the room, hit F6, click the mouse button, and see that it raises. Okay, next, we're going to want it to spin, and that's actually really easy. Go back to your script. In the if launched place, we have this double if condition. The reason I did this was so that we can have the flying tile sprite and have it dot rotate. And I did 0.15 radians. You can increase this to increase the speed of the rotation or subtract it to slow down the speed of the rotation, all up to you. Go back to the room, hit F6, click the mouse button, Notice that it is now rotating on this corner piece. What we need to do next is go back to the flying tile, and then come on over here to your sprite, change the position to 2020. Notice it still has that offset. What we want to do here is take this rect and subtract the 20 from the position on the rect, and that'll center it. And now if we go back to the room, hit F6, click the mouse button, and you'll see it spinning and raising. Now on to attacking. Now for attacking, we go back to the script. We're going to have to get a trajectory for which we want to launch the tile at. We then also want a speed for how fast that tile is going to go. I think 500 is fine. Why not? And come down to this if condition we made before. And before the launch, we want to get our position of mouse. So we'll go var position equals get global mouse position. We then want to say the trajectory is equal to the mouse position. In fact, let's go ahead and change this to mouse position. Mouse position minus the tile's global position. And then let's normalize this. And then launch is true. Then we have the launch, let it rotate. Once it's raised, we actually want it to attack. So now let's go ahead and create the else condition. And in here, we will add the words translate, trajectory, times speed, times delta. Save that. Go back to the room, F6, click, and see it go off. Notice that our tile does not come back. It is gone. Now you could just close it out, run it again, and call it a day, but that is not where I like to end things. Let's get it to respawn after it's off the screen. Let's go back to our flying tile, go into here. We want to know when the tile is no longer on screen. So let's go ahead and get an onReady var for visibility, and then we can then grab the visibility notifier, and then as another if condition, we can say if it is launched and if it is not visibility.is on screen. So this should say if it's been launched and is no longer on the screen, what should we do? Well, let's go ahead and get rid of it and just do queue free. That'll clean up the resources in your memory, and you no longer have to worry about this tile hanging out in the universe that you've just created. But now to bring it back, we need to go back to our room, go to this room node here, click on create script. Room.gd is totally fine. Click create. Feel free to clean these up. Also feel free to create an empty project as well. Go ahead and create a var flying tile equals load, and then there should be a string. Now you could go and try to write in this manually, but what I like to do is come down to your TSCN, drag and put it into these parentheses, and look at that. We actually don't need the ready method at all. We can actually just come in here, say func physics process. Let's check to see, grab an if condition, and let's check if not. So get node or null. And what this will do is we can then put in what the name of the node is in the scene. In this case, flying tile. But you can verify that by clicking on your node here and look at the top name here, and that'll be representing that node group. Here. So this should be after the queue free has ran. Now we no longer have the tile on screen. We want to get a flying tile instance. Set it to the flying tile dot instance, and then flying tile instance dot set name to, well, let's make it the same name. This way, you can just keep running this over and over again. And then let's go ahead and put it in that position. This is where remembering that position that we set. So we go into here, position equals vector 2. And I believe it was 500 by 300, but you can easily come into here and verify the flying tile is, well, yeah, 500, 300. Come over here, and then just say add child flying tile instance, save, go back, and F6 and run. Now when you click where you run your mouse, you'll see it raise, launch, and fly off. And when it goes off screen, it'll appear again, and you could do it all over again. If you do want to go and take this to the next level, feel free to check out my GitHub repository that I have that uses the tile set that you can also use. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe, stay awesome.